Our next example, 2b, will be to create a relationship between x and y using the square root function. I'll start off in column E by typing my independent variable x, and x will be a range of values from 0 to 20 with increments of 1. I will create a pattern and drag this down to I get to the value of 20. I will type y equals square root of x, and I have to use a function for this, so I will type equals. I will click on my function, insert function button next to my formula toolbar, and as you could imagine, square root will be under the s's, and Excel calls it sqrt, squirt. If I click on that, it only takes one argument, the number, and it's going to return the square root of the number. I'm going to hit OK. What number do I want to square root? Do I want to square root 0? If I type enter and I drag that formula down, then I'm always taking the square root of 0, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to come back to this function, and instead of 0, I really want to take the square root of the corresponding independent variable right next to my dependent variable that I'm currently in. So I will click on E2, which happens to be 0, and that's all good, because when I drag this formula down and I double click on, let's say, the 6th row when x is equal to 4, my parameter or argument is updating as I drag the formula down. I did not use a $sign to lock it in. The next question, the question I want to ask for this column is why a whole number, question mark. I'm going to extend this column so I can fit the whole question in there. And if you can tell by inspection in column F which are the whole numbers. The whole numbers don't have a decimal portion attached to it. The value 0, 1, 2 don't have any decimal portion associated with it, or if they do, it's a 0 fractional portion, decimal portion. So how can I evaluate, how can I get a true or false out of that? Well, I need to use a function, and the function I'm going to use is the truncate function again. Remember that the truncate function is going to remove the decimal portion of a number. And let me just do a little work over here. I will just temporarily put trunc here, and I will insert a function. Which function? The truncate function. What number do I want to truncate? I want to truncate my dependent variable y. And if I drag this down for a ways, you'll see I get just the integer portion of my independent variable y. And if I were to take if I were to write an equation, let me just put a question mark there. This is where I will evaluate my question. If I were to make an equation and I wanted to find out what could I do with my column in I, trunc, and my dependent variable f, what could I do with those two sets of numbers to evaluate whether the number was a whole number or not? And you might want to pause the video here and just see if you can come up with the answer and try it on your own in Excel before I go on. Okay, I hope you've thought about it a little bit. what you can do with these two values is you can subtract them from each other. Okay, so what? I subtract them. What are you going to find? Well, if I subtract, I'll just choose the bigger number first. And then I will subtract the truncated number, which is smaller. This will just make sure I get a positive number. And I drag this formula down. You'll notice in my question mark column, when do I get a whole number? I get a whole number, like for these values here, I get a whole number when I subtract the square rooted number in column F, my dependent variable y, from the truncated number in column I. And if I get a value of 0, that means there is no fractional part, so I get a whole number. Again, for my dependent variable value of 2, which is the square root of 4, well, the truncated value of that is also 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. If I don't have a nice number, like if I try and take the square root of 2 and get 1.414, if I strip off the decimal portion, I will just have the value 1, and 1.414, etc., minus 1 is equal to a non-zero decimal portion. So I know that's not a whole number. So with that little bit of insight, I will now make a formula here. So is y a whole number? I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to repeat what I just did off to the side here. And I will put this in parentheses to help you separate out the equal sign, that is the equation, and then the next equal sign, which will be the relational operator. So within the set of parentheses here, I am going to subtract my dependent variable y from the truncated value of that same dependent variable. So I'm going to type the function trunc, and then I need parentheses, not square brackets or curly brackets, but parentheses. And I'm going to click on the same F2 value. And if I were to hit enter and drag this formula down, you'll see that I get the same values as I had over here in my question mark. Now you'll notice that doesn't evaluate to a yes or no answer, right? So this just is subtracting the integer portion of the number from the dependent variable in column F and giving me the decimal portion. So you next want to ask a question. How do you ask a question in Excel? You type an equal sign, and what do you want to ask? Is this decimal portion equal to 4, negative 4, pi? What's going to determine whether a number is the square root of x is a whole number or not? Well, you check if the decimal portion is equal to 0. Oh, true. And if I know this looks a little confusing with all these parentheses here, but it might help you separate out the relational operator from the equal sign that indicates an equation. So I will actually use another set of parentheses here just to separate those out. If I drag this formula down, you'll see I get all trues and falses in the proper places. And to format this, I am going to use my example in 2A. I will highlight this, I will paint, and then I will just drag down over the entire range of cells, and it's going to mess up a little bit here, and that's okay. I can just I'll just go to more borders and I'll just do it by hand. I'm going to put a thin line in the middle there. For some reason that 10 didn't get formatted right. I'll go to fill, I'll put the dotted lines in there, and under the header for this, and I'll do the same over here. And I will erase this little side work that I did. And this concludes our second example.